Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Today we're really going to try and unpick the buzz around what could be Apple's next big thing, the rumored iPhone 17 Air. Our mission for you today is, well, to cut through the noise. We're pulling the key nuggets from all the latest leaks, the insights, trying to give you a clear picture of this quite mysterious device. It's supposedly replacing the Plus model in the iPhone 17 lineup. And it's definitely got people talking.
It really has. And I think that's precisely why it's so compelling. This isn't just another minor spec, but what's really intriguing here is that this model, it feels like it has the potential to fundamentally shift things, not just inside Apple, their product strategy,
Yeah.
but maybe even the whole smartphone industry. We're hearing about this blend. It's like maybe some low-end feature choices mixed with really pro-level looks.
Yeah.
It's a calculated gamble for sure.
Okay, let's unpack that gamble then. Starting with what seems to be its defining feature, this ultra-thin design. The whispers suggest it could be somewhere between 5.5 millimeters and 6 millimeters thick. Some reports are even saying maybe 5.8 millimeters exactly. I mean, that would make it the thinnest iPhone ever, right? That's a huge change.
It absolutely is. And the significance, it goes beyond just, bragging rights about thinness. Because while Samsung technically beat Apple to the punch with their own slim flagship, the Galaxy S25 Edge, Apple doing this could really cement ultra-thin flagships as the next big market trend. You know how it is. When Apple commits to a design like this, the industry often pays attention. It can redefine what people expect from a premium phone.
That's a really critical point. And speaking of the build, the rumors point to a titanium frame. But what's even more interesting is that this is expected to be the only iPhone in 2025 getting titanium. Why do that? Why just for this Air model?
Yeah, that's a fascinating strategic choice, isn't it? By using titanium just for the 17 Air, it seems like Apple's aiming for that combination. Strong, but incredibly light. Similar maybe to what Samsung did with the S25 Edge. This design choice, it feels like it's clearly meant to sidestep any potential bend gate worries. You remember those issues with previous thin phones?
Right. And what's more, some reports suggest it could be even lighter than Samsung's phone, maybe just 145 grams compared to the S25 Edge's 163 grams. So it's not just about being durable, it's about changing the whole feel of a high-end phone.
So, okay, if you're the one actually carrying this thing, what does that design philosophy mean for your day-to-day? Light and strong sounds good on paper, but exactly. That combination, the strength and the almost feather lightness, it hints that Apple's really focusing on comfort, on portability. Like the S25 Edge, the goal seems to be making it feel great to use, almost like it disappears in your pocket or hand. That could be a huge selling point for people, especially if you value sleekness but don't want something fragile. It's about blending those premium materials with practical ergonomics.
And they're achieving that comfort, or aiming for it, with some pretty interesting choices under the hood too, right? Let's dig into that mix of features, because the 17 Air, it does seem to have some curious calculated compromises. So on the display side, we're hearing 6.6 inches promotion, Apple's smooth scrolling camera control button, and the standard dynamic island, that pill thing at the top. All sounds very much like what we expect from the iPhone 16 Pro.
Right. And what's fascinating is exactly that balancing act. You get that premium feel from the display, but then they make these calculated choices elsewhere. Like for processing power, the 17 Air is expected to get an A19 chip, not the A19 Pro Saucy. That's the system on chip, basically the phone's brain, which will likely be in the Pro models. And it's rumored to have 8 GBs of RAM. So this really highlights their strategy, doesn't it? Deliver a high-end feeling experience without necessarily stuffing all the absolute top-tier parts into this specific model. It's about perceived value.
Okay, and then the camera setup, also pretty intriguing. Reports are saying a single 48MP rear camera, kind of like the iPhone 16, and then a 24MP front camera. A single rear lens on what sounds like a pretty premium iPhone in 2025. Well, it's notable.
It is. And here's a deeper detail that makes it even more interesting. Despite just one lens, analyst Jeff Poo suggests Apple might give this model a 7P lens. Now, 7P means 7 plastic elements. That's actually more elements than the rumored 6P for the Pro models and 5P for the regular ones. The implication there is potentially significant. More elements can allow for wider apertures, which, could mean this phone takes in more light. Maybe better photos, especially when it's dark. So it really raises this important question. How does Apple plan to make the photo experience great without multiple lenses? It suggests they're leaning heavily on, optical quality and some serious computational photography magic rather than just giving you more zoom options, betting on quality over quantity here.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, but let's circle back to something that always comes up with any super thin phone. battery life. The rumored 2800 milliamp battery pack for the 17 Air. I mean, that immediately sounds like a tiny cell for such a thin phone, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Especially compared to others.
Yeah, but here's where it gets really interesting. Mark Gurman's leak,
Hmm.
it directly counters that worry. He suggests the battery life could actually still be on par with current iPhones, even though they're shaving off, what, about 2 millimeters of thickness?
Hmm.
And, iPhones have always been known for their optimization, software and hardware working together to squeeze more life out of maybe smaller batteries rather than just using massive cells. It's kind of their classic approach, focusing on efficiency.
Right. And when you contrast that with some Android phones, it really shows different ways to tackle the problem. Like you mentioned the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus earlier. That phone has a huge 5,160 milliamp battery, but it's also super thin, around 5.95 millimeters. So clearly there are different paths here.
Exactly. And this points to the bigger picture in battery tech development.
Mm.
You see brands, especially Chinese manufacturers like Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, they're really pushing the envelope, exploring new stuff like silicon carbide batteries, which offer higher energy density, packing more power into the same space. So it highlights these different approaches. Apple leans on optimization. Others are pushing new battery chemistry. It's fascinating to watch. Oh, and just a quick note on charging. Seems like all the iPhone 17 models, Air included, might get bumped up to 35W fast charging. It's incremental, sure, but still a welcome improvement from Apple.
Okay, moving beyond the core specs,
Mm.
let's talk connectivity. And also some of those more ambitious ideas Apple apparently had but didn't go with for the Air. We're hearing whispers about no physical SIM card slot,
Mm.
just SIM, the digital one built in. But that could run into problems in some places, right? Like China might have regulatory issues with that.
That's right. And adding to the connectivity picture, the 17 Air is expected to use Apple's own C1 modem chip. That's the one that debuted on the iPhone 16. It's supposedly more power efficient than the Qualcomm modems, which is good for battery life, but it does lack milliwave support. That's that super fast, short-range 5G you get in some cities. And there are also rumors, sort of longer term, that Apple is testing its own Wi-Fi and maybe full 5G modems for potentially the 2026 iPhones. So this C1 chip feels like another step on that journey.
It's always so interesting to hear about the things that almost happened, isn't it? For the Air, Apple apparently considered some bigger ideas, like maybe a larger 6.9-inch screen, but they supposedly got worried about it being too easy to bend. And they also thought about going completely portless, no charging port at all. But then concerns about the EU's USB-C mandate apparently shut that down. What does that tell us about how they make decisions? Balancing ambition with practicality and outside pressure.
Yeah, I mean, this raises an important question, doesn't it? How do these strategic choices and these regulatory hurdles impact not just this phone, but where devices might go in the future? Apple clearly have these big, bold ideas, pushing boundaries. But then reality bites engineering challenges, government rules. They play a huge role in what actually ends up in your hand. It shows they're ambitious, but also have to make concessions.
And talking about impact, it seems pretty clear that if this iPhone 17 Air is a hit, Apple reportedly plans to bring this slimmer design to more models down the line, and maybe even revisit that whole portless idea someday.
Yeah.
Apple's designs, well, they often kickstart trends, don't they? So this could really be the beginning of a new wave of ultra-thin phones across the board. Oh, and the price. We're hearing maybe around $900, similar to where the iPhone 16 Plus sits now.
Right. And just to wrap up this section, it's worth mentioning analyst Jeff Poo again. He believes that the Apple Intelligence features, they're going to be a most critical factor for iPhone 17 success.
Hmm.
He thinks AI, and especially how smart Siri becomes, will be a fundamental driver for replacement demand.
Hmm.
So it suggests that even with all this cool hardware, the thin design, the titanium,
Hmm.
the software, the AI layer, that might be what really convinces people. The hardware sets the stage, but the AI could, steal the show.
So, okay, let's try and recap the core identity here. The iPhone 17 Air, it's really shaping up to be this unique, ultra-thin device, one that kind of cleverly blends those pro-level aesthetics, that premium feel, with some very strategic, calculated compromises on the inside. And all while pushing design boundaries and potentially influencing the whole industry. It's quite a package.
Absolutely. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the iPhone 17 Air, it feels like more than just a new phone model.
Yeah.
It's almost a statement, isn't it, about what Apple thinks the future of mobile design looks like. It really makes you wonder, how will its success, or maybe even its challenges, reshape how you think about the devices you carry every day? What do you prioritize in your next phone after seeing something like this?
That's a great question to mull over as we wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep exploring these ideas, keep asking questions, and we'll catch you on the next one.